James Brown, how can you forget James Brown? Seen the light, have you seen the light? Hi there, welcome to today's vlog. Today we are marking 40 years since the Blues Brothers film.
We're on a mission from God, putting the band back together.
Forget it.
Would it make you feel any better if you knew that what we're asking Matt here to do is a holy thing?
Before we do that though, just a quick catch up for those of you who regularly watch the vlog. Had a great weekend away, the weekend just gone with my kids, got away. It was so great to be able to get a change of scene. We went to Canterbury in Kent, which is a beautiful part of the UK. Highly recommend it if you're ever over here or if you're in the UK and you've never been down to Kent. Go down, take a look. I mean, we went down, we had a great time at the beach. It was a bit scary at times, you know, people were not necessarily respecting social distancing. It got a bit mad, and I've got to admit, by 2 o'clock on Friday, which was the hottest day we've had in the UK this year, I said to the kids, look, it's time to go. I'm not really overly happy with how the distance is with everyone, but yeah, it was great to get away. I am promising you this week to give you 3 vlogs in a week, so make sure you're subscribing. Please do click a like if you haven't done already. But today we're going to go back and talk about the Blues Brothers, and part of it came from this interview that I had seen in the Chicago Tribune with saxophonist Blue Lou Marini, who was talking about the 40th anniversary of the Blues Brothers and a gig that he's got coming up this Friday, the 7th of August, with I can't find it now. With the Jeff Lindbergh Chicago Jazz Orchestra, okay? Don't know if you can catch it online. I'll try and have a little look if you can find it, but the interview is below. And he's just talking about the history of the film. I mean, I love these lines here where he talks about recording Think, how Aretha Franklin basically came in and did 3 different takes, all completely different, all nowhere near what was written on the score, just a complete different idea of what to do. How Ray Charles did his in 1 take. Ray Charles, you know, that Shake Your Tail Feather was done all in 1 take for the film. And, you know, it also tells a nice little story about how he'd performed with Cab Calloway a few years beforehand as just sort of like a session musician, and the guys really cocked it up, but Cab Calloway just got through the gig. What's your story behind the Blues Brothers? For me, Blues Brothers was the first professional gig that I got aged 16 and a half. There was a Blues Brothers tribute band based in Lancashire near where I lived. I was actually in the PA shop looking for some stuff for a youth club disco, believe it or not, and got chatting to the guy who was behind the counter. He'd just come back from a tour with the Blues Brothers band in Ireland, and he said, you know, I know they're looking for a saxophone player, why don't you give them a call? Gave him a call, went along, did the audition, found out that Chris, who was the trumpet player, I'd actually been in one of the dance bands, one of the county dance bands with Chris. He was a trumpet player, and yeah, and we kind of went from there. Did a recording at Berlin Studios in Blackpool, which was set up by someone who was in Thin Lizzy, I think, if I remember correctly. Anyway, diverting my Blues Brothers story. I saw the film the first time. It was on TV, I think 2 weeks before I joined the band, maybe a week before our first gig. So it was quite an interesting baptism of fire. And I remember the first gig I played with the Blues Brothers, which must have been 97. We went all the way to Leeds from Blackpool, which is about an hour and a half journey in the van. Got there and none of the PA system worked, so we didn't get paid for the gig. It was my sort of baptism of fire into the lines of you know, sort of working in those sort of environments, and it was a really interesting band to play in, because we got some quite amazing gigs and we got some really terrible gigs as well. I mean, there's the scene in the film when they're playing in the country and western bar. And I vividly remember one, I think it was around about, must have been about 99 when I was doing my A-levels. I was 18 at the time, so I think I just turned 18. I remember we played a gig on the Friday night in this absolute dive of a bar in Blackpool. And I think we got £40 each. It wasn't a lot of money. It was a terrible gig, did not enjoy it. But we were told, right, we're picking you up at 8 o'clock because we're going to Cambridge, now where I live. And we played the Corn Exchange, and we used our PA system that we used for the band and all the other gigs as foldback, because we didn't, they already had a PA system there. And usually we had some kind of terrible, you know, wedding type DJ, you know, doing a set in between the band sets. And that night we had Dave Pearce from Radio 1, BBC, doing the in-between sets. It was the most surreal experience. Myself, Chris and Neil, who was the drummer, we went out to get a couple of drinks in Cambridge, came back, couldn't get into our own dressing room because it was security for the band. And people tried to invade the stage. It was just, we were just like, how are we playing this dive yesterday and now playing this amazing, well, the Corn Exchange Cambridge, I think holds about 3,000 people. It was just an incredible experience and something I look back on with fondness. At the time, you know, I look back now at 17, 18 doing those sort of gigs, it was phenomenal, but I don't know whether I'd want to do them. And one of the bands I joined in Ireland when I moved over there was called the Booze Brothers, and doing a similar type of thing, but it was just one front man, and we didn't do an awful lot of the Blues Brothers stuff. The stuff we did with the amazing Blues Brothers Soul Revue tour was literally a lot of the stuff lifted from the film. So, you know, you start with Green Onions, Everybody Needs Somebody, you know, I'm trying to think of some street called the Katie. That was a really good blues track. Going Back to Miami, all these ones that were in the Blues Brothers films. And then they did a Blues Brothers 2000 film in them, which I never think took off as well as the original Blues Brothers film. And we tried incorporating some of the ones from that new one, but it never really worked out. In fact, it's to sum up my favourite scene, I reckon it's the bit where they go over the bridge where all the Nazis are gathered and all the Nazis fall off into the thing. It gets a bit daft. I think I'll let Charlie watch the end of it, you know, when they kind of going to the Cook County Assessor's office, which I think is played by Steven Spielberg. You know, so there's kind of, yeah, there's lots of, you know, it's humour. And I think it's even the Blue, Lou Marini says, it's basically, it's a musical with comedic elements in it. You know, the music, it's one of those great musical films. I don't know if it's a great comedy film, but I think it's a great musical film. I think this, you know, say Aretha Franklin, John Lee Hooker, Ray Charles, Cab Calloway. Who else is in it as well? There's some others. Let me have a quick look. James Brown! How can you forget James Brown? There. Seen the light! Have you seen the light? It's amazing how many of those songs I can remember and how many I can't. Well, what I was doing at the start there, this little thing, is on my Nail Your Scales ebook, which you can get below if you haven't got it already. There are 15 different scale exercises in there that, if you really pay attention to them, is going to transform how you play the saxophone. There's of course my long tones book as well. I'm thinking of doing a third book, but I'm not sure what to do it on. I think books are good, but I think you have to be very careful with books. It's very easy to write a book that will make you buy it, but I don't want to do that. I want to get a book that's going to help transform your playing. That's what I really am interested in doing, is trying to make you all better saxophone players, and me a better saxophone player as well. And really, truth be told, as I've said before, the best way to do that is to transcribe, is to listen, is to learn off recordings. Just doing the edit and realising there is no context to this next bit of footage. So I went out with a friend last night to go punting in Cambridge. It's the first time, I've been lived in Cambridge for 9 years, I've never been out on a punt. So it was a great opportunity to go out, quieter than it usually is, but it was a great way to see the city. I really, really, really enjoyed it. And so if you ever do come to Cambridge, I hope you'll take up the opportunity to go on a punt. Try and order online beforehand rather than getting one from the touts in the city centre. But this is a little bit of footage going around Cambridge.
My brother's only been coming in for like an hour or so, so it's taking him a bit longer now. Yeah, it's not too long. You kind of get the hang of getting the boat to go straight. I mean, you're getting to Cambridge University for it. Comes from the side, the prisoners would give as they crossed over, knowing they're about to die.
It's all very happiness, isn't it?
Where is it? So the college itself dates back to 1441. They started building the chapel some 5 years later with the initial plan that should only take them about...
One final thing I wanted to talk about today, and that is a upcoming masterclass stroke video conference thing. I don't quite know what to call it, but it's with Sios. I'm delighted on the 24th of August to be doing this special clinic, I guess is the best way of calling it, online clinic, called Being a Musician in the Digital Age. If you're a musician, even an amateur musician, I'm hoping to be able to bring you some new stuff, some new tips that I haven't necessarily brought on the vlog, some best tips and best practice of what I've learned from 4 years on YouTube, and also, you know, how possibly are we going to be able to make music together in the next 6 to 12 months time. So tune in for that, make it a date in your diary. It's 6 p.m. Paris time, that's 5 p.m. in the UK, and I presume 12 p.m. in New York, which makes it, I guess, 8 a.m. in LA. Quite early for you guys, really, isn't it? Thank you very much for watching today. Don't forget, leave your memories of the Blues Brothers film below. I'll be back with you later this week. As I say, I promise you 3 vlogs this week, so please do hit a like and subscribe if you don't already. I'll see you really soon. Bye bye.